Microsoft, I believe it was, recently eliminated their very controversial internal ranking system. Is that good or bad, or what can companies do now using technology to rank their employees in some sort of way so they know who to promote from within?
Okay, so I can certainly speak to it since we do ranking. And here I get to plug the fact that we actually, just the last couple of weeks, rolling out an entirely new scoring system, entirely new algorithm behind Guild's principal product, Guild Source. And the way I actually like to think about it is, first off, we don't do forced stack ranking like the way that Microsoft does, in the sense that they have this odd quality where it didn't matter how good your team was, someone on that team was at the bottom of the list and suffered the consequences for it, which sounds crazy to me. We simply say, this is who this candidate is. The best that we can figure from the data we've collected, this is who they are, here's their strengths and their weaknesses. And the way I really think about it is that we actually produce an automated executive summary on everybody. And then our scoring system is really just a clue into that, because we know that people using our system, hiring managers, recruiters, they can't read an executive summary on everybody. So we give some basic information in terms of some visuals and some scoring, so you can quickly drill down on people that fit your specific needs for your company at a broad level, and then really tie into the details at a fine detail level. So we're very excited about rolling that out. But at the same time, I think there's a real problem. So my experience in education is, if you provide a system to a teacher that says this student is smart, dumb, capable, incapable, what have you, that becomes the truth of that student to that instructor. And if that's true, you've just affected their whole educational career, and you'd better be right. If you're doing that with a recruiter, it's sort of a noisy process as it is. You better be right, but this isn't necessarily affecting someone's whole life. I like to think if we all went in and interviewed at any top company, you'd probably all recognize that some of the times you get the job and some of the times you wouldn't, and it'd be the quirk of that day and people's mood and so forth, which is terrible, but it's reality. But instead, when we start talking internally with companies and providing this sort of feedback, which is a domain that I think really needs it, then you've gotta be right. You can't be playing around with people's lives when you don't have a really robust and reliable statement about who they are, because as soon as you say it, their boss is going to believe it. And so that's a responsibility that we have to own and get right.
Yeah, just to add to this, I think social is giving us a good ranking mechanism. I think increasingly social proof, whether it's social endorsements or just a social filter on performance or on data. In the same way that the news that appear in your LinkedIn newsfeed is more likely to be relevant to you just because it's shared by people that you're connected with, right? So it provides a natural filter on the notion of news items. In the same way, I think we will learn to use the social web and social connections as a way to better focus on the right performers internally, and that's the whole social performance market, which is really emerging fast, and as a way to discover and endorse candidates in recruiting.
So this question is about transparency. Now, I don't know if this is still a practice, but I was reading last year that a lot of hiring managers were asking for Facebook passwords, LinkedIn passwords, to kind of really see the dirt that their candidates were getting into. Is there some tech that can give people access to this without violating privacy? Should they be violating privacy? What do you guys think?
I think it's a shame, and I'll let someone else answer.
Anybody want to touch that?
Go for it.
Yeah, I'll go for it. Yeah, it's a shame. right? I think on one hand we all live a public life, right? There's nothing you can do about it, and if you were secretly attending this session, it's too late because you're probably already on Twitter on some picture, and someone might recognize you, and that's just the way it is, right? So we're all living a public life. But at the same time, we all have a privacy as well. I think we're getting better at managing this public-private sense. Most of us here are in a transition generation, right? So we were born, it wasn't there, and now it's here, and we're like, oh, okay, how to manage that? But one generation after us, and they're pretty comfortable with, yeah, this is my public Instagram account, and this is my private Instagram account, and I think we will learn how to deal with this transparency. In matters of recruiting, I think it is great practice to go and check out the LinkedIn profile, the Twitter feed, the blog, the Facebook page, or whatever of your candidate, whatever they have chosen to make public, and it gets you to know the person better. Asking them for their password, it's like, why not visit their house? And it's just sucks, right?
Agreed here. Anybody else?
Sure. So I came to Guild out of the edtech space, and the goal of my company there was and continues to be, can I look at a student's entire educational career to answer one single question? Do they understand this concept? And of course, you want to ask that question over and over again. If you get it all right, why ever give that student a test? But you do it by bringing to bear all of that data that you can collect on that student. I don't care if they got a question wrong 3 weeks ago. I care about whether they understand the concept right now. Very competency-based focus. And I brought that same philosophy to Guild. I don't care if there's a picture of you with a lampshade on your head, but let me see your entire professional career so that we can help find what it is that will potentially make you a great candidate. And that right place for you, right? It may sound very crass, but we've got this big database full of developers, and much like someone selling widgets, if we're really only selling fewer than 1% of them, then that doesn't do us much good. I want to sell all 7 million. I want every one of them to get a job out of our system. Sometimes that's a hard sell, but there's got to be something about that person that's worth saying, and that comes out of seeing the whole picture. Comes out of having a real transparent representation of who they are. And the goal of us and others should be to recognize that experts, even real experts, expert recruiters, expert doctors, well-known study research that if you combine an expert system with an expert doctor, if the doctor takes the expert system's recommendation, it performs worse than the expert system by itself. If the expert system takes the expert doctor's recommendation, it performs better than the expert system by itself. So I really see HR tech as potentially playing that role of being able to take some real expertise amongst the recruiters and the talent managers and everyone else, but being able to augment that and do even more with it. And one of the easiest things is to remove these biases and these bad decisions that we make without even meaning to. We just have a presumption that this kind of person's not going to get the job done, and the data says something different. We should break that. If you're going to be overly sensitive that someone has something in their Facebook or in their Twitter feed that you don't like, but it's not predictive of whether they're going to be a great performer in your company, we should let you know you got to ignore that, or you're going to make a bad decision.